The New York Knicks are back, and Madison Square Garden is back in the NBA's Final Four. The final score in Game 6, New York 119, Boston 81.
Skaz is here, and Cerrone Battle is joining us once again. Cerrone, what a good old ass beating tonight.
Yeah, it got out of hand pretty quickly, Joe. But hey, man, the Knicks, you knew the Knicks had a game in them where they play like this in the series, and it just happened to come, on the Celtics when they were at the end here. So, shout out to the Knicks. They played it well. They weren't flawless most of the game, but they were good enough to blow the Celtics team out tonight. And it got out of hand, and Celtics let go of the rope, and it was all she wrote. But they never really were in sync in the beginning. Completely went away from everything they did well in the previous game. And the Knicks took advantage of it, and the Celtics had no answers for it early in the first half of this game.
I don't want to do any analysis on this game. They got their asses kicked. They no-showed. They tapped out, and that's my opening take. The Celtics tapped out tonight. They tapped out. I told you, Cerrone, Skaz knows this. I'm already getting emails. I said the Celtics would get out in front and teams would tap out, and that's the way that they played for a year and a half. Mm-hmm. And they met the New York Knicks, who were resilient, did not, and the Celtics tapped out. And, congrats to the New York Knicks. They've had a drought for years. I didn't think Tom Thibodeau would be the guy. I already had him fired. They made the move for Karl Anthony Towns. I actually thought they got worse because, that's a good trade if we really look at it now. But just overall, I credit the New York Knicks. They closed the door, man. They were awesome. Do I love the fact that they played their guys until 7 minutes left? Whatever. That's on them. But, just congratulations to the New York Knicks. They were the better team.
Yeah, they were they moved on. So, yeah, I would say that.
Yeah.
But
we could sit here and say, hey, 75% of the time the Celtics won the matchups. But, it doesn't matter. They lost.
Yeah, they lost. They got put out, and the Knicks played. It's simple. The Knicks played their basketball. They played the way they played all season. Usually that was terrible against good teams. This is the first stretch they've had where they've had success against a good team was the last 2 weeks, and that's because the good team they played didn't play their basketball. They didn't play. Not say they didn't play hard. They just didn't play the way they've played all season. Now some things played into it. Porzingis just was not right coming into the playoffs. They just didn't sync up well. Things weren't there. I still think Mazzulla looked like a coach that was going against another coach with 30 years more experience than he does. It was pretty clear. And to be honest, all Thibodeau did was make sure his guys play with the way they're supposed to play. He didn't worry about what the Celtics were doing. He did what his team was. He's focused on his team playing his brand of basketball. And usually that's not been good enough as long as he's been a head coach. But it was good enough against a team that played completely different than the way they've played against his team in the past. And it buried them. They put themselves in a bad hole in games 1 and 2. And they set themselves up for failure. And they were skating uphill at that point. And that's where this series was lost. They lost this series in the first 2 games of this series.
Yep. As far as New York goes, Mazzulla, I'm sure will look at it and say, hey, these guys gave everything they had. And, in the end, when you look at it, one of the biggest problems with the Celtics all year long was their rebounding and points in the paint. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't a wart. Do you know what I'm saying? All season long, it was Sabonis crushed them on the boards, or they'd play teams where it's and I always thought that was their biggest issue. It wasn't the philosophy and things of that degree. But tonight, they didn't have anything. So that's why I don't really want to give an analysis. They gave it all, I think, in Game 5. But Karl Anthony Towns is where I'm going with this. I don't think he's a tough player. I don't really even consider him a great big. But if he just adjusts his game and takes the advantage, the Celtics had no front court. None. They couldn't rely on anybody. And all Karl Anthony Towns had to do was be 21-12. That's what he is, right? But sometimes he wants to sit on the 3-point line, and they needed him to be a big in this series. I give him a lot of credit because it's not his style, and he and the Knicks beat the Celtics. This is why I'm going to bend the knee to them. I never thought New York would end the Celtics era.
The Celtics ended their own era.
That's true.
The Knicks just happened to be the team on the other side. Because to be honest with you, the way the Celtics play coming into this playoffs, if Orlando was at full strength, we don't know how that would have gone. The way that Porzingis was playing, Jaylen Brown came into that series banged up. Tatum hurt his wrist and missed a game. If the Knicks had the other Wagner, the good one, and Suggs, that series might have gone a lot longer than expected. They probably would have won in the long run, but that would have been a much longer and tougher series, and we would have been questioning them then. But they was able to get away with it because the Magic's offense was just so bad. This Knicks team, you mentioned Karl Anthony Towns. When he was defended by Porzingis or Horford or Cornet closer to the basket, he was a mess. Even tonight, he was flopping all over the place, begging for fouls. He was on the floor, palms up as usual. But for some reason, you talk about philosophy. The Celtics, coaching, players, everybody's to blame, started putting Sam Hauser on him. You started putting Jaylen Brown on him, got Brown in foul trouble. You started putting Derek White on him. And next thing you know, he's flexing like he's got muscles. He took advantage of the mismatch, which is simple, basic, fundamental basketball. On the flip side, I got it recorded on my phone quite a few times. You won that last game because you went at Jalen Brunson.
Yep.
He was the weakest link on defense the entire series, and you never attacked him until the last game, game 5. You went at him relentlessly. He had 5 fouls in one quarter. Tonight, he was standing on defense, just in the corner, like running away from the ball, and they never went at him. They never was aggressive at him. They never made him play defense. They let him relax. They going at OG, going at Towns, going at Mitchell Robinson, but never was aggressive going at Jalen Brunson, and it put them in the hole early. When you go aggressive, when you take advantage of the mismatch, it allows the other team, well, it doesn't allow, it forces the other team to now help that guy, to sag, to give up the shooters in the corners. You wonder why, no one's open tonight. It's like, yeah, because they're not worried about you attacking mismatches. So the Celtics philosophy burned them again, just like it did in games 1 and game 2. It burned them tonight because they didn't put the human element into it. They didn't play mismatches, which is something that they've been notorious for the last 2 years, is seeking out mismatches and attacking them. They just was out there just gunning and shooting and taking contested shots, over dribbling, something they didn't do in the previous game. And they did it all early, and next thing you know, you look up, they're down 20. And it's like, well, there you go. Porzingis, I thought, played his best 10 minutes of the series, and he only plays 11 minutes for the whole game. So it was just, by the time they got to halftime, they said, hey, if we don't cut this thing under 20 in the third quarter, it's lights out. And you can clearly see it on the players' faces. They waved the white flag in the third quarter.
My notes tonight, because it didn't go far. 13 second chance points in the first quarter, 10 points off turnovers. 23 of those were 23 of the 33 points were from that. The Celtics were down 13. They didn't score in the quarter. Jaylen Brown, first quarter was everything, but then he had 5 turnovers early on. Then he fouled out in the third quarter, tapped out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's it. And people were saying, well, Brown's playing a good half. He's got 18 at halftime. I think that was the problem. The last game, what did we praise him for? Not overly shooting, not being too aggressive, playing the team game, picking the spots, picking the mismatches. Don't over dribble with the basketball. What did he do tonight? 7 turnovers in 30 minutes, 6 fouls in 30 minutes. He took 20 shots in 30 minutes. It's the complete opposite of what he did last game when he played under control. He rebounded. He moved the ball. He only had 2 turnovers. His shot, I think he only took 16 and 17 shots. Shot attempts were down in way more minutes. Completely went away from what worked. Drew Holiday, 1 for 8. Derek White, 3 for 11. There's your game right there. That's it. Your guards are your strength of this team. Defensive backcourt, Holiday, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard. They had nothing in the first half. and there was the hole that you were in right there. You were done at that point.
All right, Cerrone, we got to take a break. I know some people want to call in and give their thoughts, and I don't have much analysis on tonight. I don't. They got their asses kicked. I congratulate the New York Knicks. Remember when Bill Belichick didn't want to say the other team was the better team? Remember, I'm gonna just say it. The New York Knicks were the better team, and I
still won't.
I know, and it's a bad taste, but it was no matter how we say it, this was a failure. It was a failure. It was a great season, but it was a failure. All right, we got to go to break. Cerrone's here. I'm Joe Murray, 98, Father the Sports Hub.
You're listening to Joe Murray on 98.
Share this quote from Brian Scalabrine. He goes, "This is probably fitting because there are probably times where the Celtics maybe cheated the game a little bit in a way, the way that they approached the series." How do you feel about that, sir?
They cheated the game the way they approached the series. What I mean, like overlooking the Knicks? What did they overlook?
I thought he meant play style.
Oh well, it's not shocking. This is who they've been since Mazzulla's been the head coach. This isn't new. I mean, they've gotten away with it, and it burned them in the first two games. 25 out of 100. We know the numbers. I mean, it burned them. That's how we all knew it was going to come back to burn them eventually. They got it going after that, but I mean, games 1 and 2 was lost because you could not hit the three and they wouldn't stop shooting them, and that's where the series was lost. Yeah, it came back to bite them, and adjustments have to be made now. And if you don't, you're just running into a brick wall, right? At that point, you have to make adjustments and tweak your play style, your roster, and everything else this offseason.
The reason why I call it a failure is because you are trying to go back-to-back. You have a lot on the line, new ownership, guys are getting older, big-time contracts. Like, they were all in for a championship this year. Like, with Tatum and Brown together in the lineup they had, at times this year, they were the best team in the NBA. Like, they were. So that's why I say it's a failure. And at this point, the margin for error, injuries, right? Sicknesses, guys just not performing. It happened. And, again, everyone's going to point to the philosophy, but that margin for error showed up in the series. Like, they adjusted in the first round, and it was like, wow, look at them. They can do this. The second round, I think they literally got destroyed on the boards. And, yeah, did they miss a lot of shots? Like, if they hit their shots, do they win the series? I do. I do think that. But I think in the end, they relied on too many things that were just unreliable, and that's the margin for error.
It was. I mean, and it's not even missing the shots, Joe. It's taking 60 3-pointers. In the games you won, I don't think they took more than 50. They were in the 40s. That you played desperate. You played like you didn't have a plan. You played just uncharacteristic basketball. You made no second half adjustments in the beginning of this series at all. None. And you, even in the game you won, you almost blew a big lead, but you was able to keep them at bay. I mean, you had Tatum, so it was a little easier. But I mean, there was no adjustments. There was no, it's going to work. You hear Mazzulla, yep, shots are going to fall. We're going to keep doing it. This is how we won championships. Eventually, the shots are going to fall. They never fell. That was it. They never fell. You had the mismatches. You had the more talented team, so you had more mismatches, more guys that could score. You can't have a series where McBride has a bigger impact than Drew Holiday and Bridges and these guys outplaying. You can't have games where Derek White's taking 16, 17 threes and 1 2-point shot. That's just your philosophy is on steroids at that point. You're just going like that wasn't something you were doing in the regular season. You just completely just went off the rails, and instead of adjusting, just doubled down game after game until you found yourself in a hole. And then now you want to play Celtic basketball, but now it's too late. And then tonight you had the perfect storm. You were off, they were on, and you got blown out. Their crowd showed up, unlike the Celtics crowd that was there the other night. Their crowd showed up and was loud. You didn't hear any Celtic fans in there at all, even when they made free throws. Mitchell Robinson fans in Boston. Everything, it was the perfect storm for this team. And you saw the coaching experience. Mazzulla got, dog walked out there by Thibodeau, and he didn't have any answers for it. And they got burnt. They got burnt the whole series from start to finish because of coaching, philosophy, style of play.
You think he's back? I do.
I'm calling Mike Malone. I'm calling Malone. It's all about if he picks up the phone, if he wants the job, yeah, he might not want it now because he doesn't have Tatum for a season, and we're going to blame him for them losing.
Well, he ain't going to New York.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah, well, let them get smoked by the Pacers. So he'd be back on Thibodeau.
You mean to tell me that if they lose to the Pacers, Tom Thibodeau gets fired?
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
Because they're going to say he can't put us over. We beat the Celtics. How do we lose to the Pacers? They're looking at the fans were
they're
celebrating.
looking ahead now, and they're favored.
They're looking way ahead.
They're favored to go to the final.
Yeah, they're looking. They were celebrating tonight like they won the championship. So to go from that to getting beat by Tyrese Halliburton and Siakam, and if they get beat bad and get blown out, oh, he's done. They're gonna pick a guy that they can put them over the top and win them a championship. But if Malone is out there, the ex-Denver Nuggets coach, I am calling him. I'm shooting him a text right now and see what happens.
I didn't think you'd say that. Wow. All right. Hot take right off the bat. Let's talk to Chuck. He's in D.C. What's up, Chuck?
Hey, what's up, guys? Tough night, obviously, but, I think we all I kind of knew it was coming, not going to lie. I don't want two things really I want to get to. I don't really want to sugarcoat or, make excuses because this is a massive failure. There's no doubting that. But I think we do need to realize they've had, 3 straight deep postseason runs before this season. And so definitely there's part of me that thinks that that's definitely contributing to them kind of just unraveling. They just hit a wall. It's just a human element, not an excuse, just part of it. That's number one. Number two, the more I think about it, I could not be more opposed to blowing up this team next year or tanking for the lottery pick like some fans have been suggesting, even though, I'm filtering out tonight because you can't use tonight. It was a disaster. But, Brown, White, that's your core for next year. Try to win games. Do not blow this team up. I think that's just profoundly stupid to waste a year of Jaylen Brown's career or trading him away. You bring back Brown and White next year, try to bring in some other pieces, and hope that they can hold the fort down until Tatum comes back, if he ever comes back next year.
Thanks, buddy. Let's hold on that one. I can't do that yet, Cerrone. I can't do that yet.
That's the conversation, Joe. As soon as the clock's at zero,
and listen, we're on. Are you on Sunday with me? I'm on Sunday.
No, I don't think so. But we're gonna get into it.
All right, we will. I know we're going. We're here till midnight tonight. Everybody, we'll take as many calls. I'll take a couple more calls and we'll get back to that. Chris is in Grafton. Hey, Chris.
Yeah, it is, man.
Not really, man. Al's in Rhode Island. Hey, Al.
Hey, Joe. Thanks for taking my call. I'm not even going to touch the coaching because there was no coaching tonight. I'm just going to go with Jaylen Brown. I'm really upset about him because I thought last year he finally turned the corner from 2 years ago where he was always turning it over. Last year, I think we won the championship because of him. But again, when you need a free throw or you need a layup or you need to catch a pass, he's not coming up. I think they just need to move on from Jaylen Brown. He's not a supermax player.
I'm sorry, can't do that.
Of course he is.
He's a really good player, and
he absolutely is.
I think him and Tatum need each other. I don't know how many times we can say that. By the way, did anybody realize, remember we got calls the other night about they look better without Jason Tatum?
Yeah, that kind of went right out the window. That was on social media up until tip-off.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a difference, though.
Mm.
Jaylen Brown is a max player. Look around at all the max players in the league, and you tell me, who's – playoff Jimmy Butler. Did you see what happened to him the other night? You see what he did all series? Look at all the number twos in the playoffs right now. The reason OKC, who won 66 games or whatever it is, the reason they're in a battle against a team with one all-star is because the number twos around Shai Gilgeous-Alexander aren't doing their thing. They're not playing up to their level. It's a league-wide thing. I mean, you can look at – we're all focusing on Jaylen Brown, the 7 turnovers tonight. And, look, he's on that level of the next tier all-stars. Jason Tatum, you see the difference between a first-team top 5 talent versus an all-star. There's a difference. There's a gap there. And it's Jaylen Brown is not on that level, but he's an all-star number. He's an excellent number 2 in this league. When you're number 1, when they get to see you a couple times, they know your tendencies. They double-team you. They put you in situations you're not used to being in. The best defender, OG, is now on him as opposed to being on Tatum, and it's much harder for him to do his thing. People go back to last year. Oh, man, yeah, he like the caller said, yeah, he won it for us. Yeah, that's because Tatum was the one being doubled and triple teamed. So he should get his buckets. He should get his layups. And that's what you need a good number 2 for. But when you're thrown out of nowhere as the number 1 because the key guy gets hurt, all of a sudden nothing looks right. The Golden State Warriors, they lost Steph Curry. nothing about the Warriors looked right. Kerr didn't look right. Draymond, Jimmy Butler. It was all a mess once you lose Steph Curry. So losing Jason Tatum it puts everybody up a notch, but it makes it that much harder because you're seeing a better defender in front of you and the game plan for you a little different when you're the man. But no, I'm not putting this on Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown I wouldn't say he didn't lose this series for them. I mean, we won them a game the last game. He kept it alive for him. So I'm not going to put this on him. Now, Derek White and Holiday.
And Pritchard.
4 for 20.
And Pritchard.
And Pritchard, 9 for 30, whatever they were.
Yep.
Yeah, that's where you should point the fingers at right now.
Yep. Paul's in California. Hey, Paul.
Yeah, thanks, guys, for taking my call. Brad Stevens has got like a lot of work cut out for him as far as, this roster goes. But Tatum and Brown, I mean, you can't break them up. They've been good. How many finals have we been in the last 3 or 4 years, 5 years, whatever? And, I'm just thinking that, a couple more key players and we might be there again.
Thanks, bud. Yeah, there's a lot to figure out there. I got a couple of questions for you, Cerrone, in a second here, but Alex is in Hadley. Hey, Alex. All right, he's gone. All right, we'll take a quick break. I wanted you to think about these during the break, though. Where does this title run rank? What grade do you give it? The title run, and is this the end of an era? We'll get into that. And what's the future of next season? What do the Celtics do, and where do they get better? We'll do all that coming up next here on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Essential Sports Hub headline presented by Celsius Energy Drinks.
All right, the Celtics season is over. They lost tonight 119-81 to New York. Ending their season, New York will take on the Pacers in the Eastern.
Around here, we call them the Joe Murray pre-party. It's Felger and Maz afternoons right now. Joe Murray on the Sports Hub.
I'm looking forward to coming back stronger. So, you just take this with your chin up. I know Boston, it looks gloomy right now. Obviously with JT being out, that's kind of end of the year. But it's a lot to look forward for. It's a lot to look forward to. I want the city to feel excited about that. This is not the end. So I'm looking forward to what's next.
So, Cerrone Battle's here. You mentioned they've called Mike Malone. Just a call. See what happens. All right, let's start looking at next year. Let's just do it. Let's dive into it. My take, Cerrone, is, and again, it's just a take. If I'm wrong, that's fine. This was my reaction the other night, so I'm going to stick to it. This Tatum injury thing sounds like he got it fast and he wants to come back faster. I would sit him for the year. That's just what Joe would do. The other thing I would do is let Jaylen Brown fix whatever's going on with his knee. And in a way, I am basically saying let them both get right next year. Health-wise, get your finances in order. Maybe you get a draft pick this year that can contribute. And then the following year, you're going to get in the lottery is I guess where I'm going with it. And you try to develop a couple of guys like Shireman. Maybe Drew Peterson can be a shooter off the bench. But you got to find bigs. I'm saying take a step back to get your finances in order, get your two best players healthy, and then the next year they're both healthy, and then you have money to spend with Porzingis money coming off the books, or you trade him at the deadline. Nope, I lose him.
Oh, sorry.
No, yeah. My take is Brown and Tatum essentially aren't a part of next season. They're trying to get healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I would say this. If this was the NBA of 10 years ago, yes.
Yeah, like the Spurs did it, right? When David Robinson got hurt.
You can. And a lot of teams, because the draft, the college talent was so plentiful. It was thick. You could find guys 10th, 15th pick that can come in and help you. Get the Terry Roziers of the world, and the Kelly Olynyk's. You can find guys that could play, guys that were basically all American caliber players that would kind of slide in the draft because it was so top heavy in the beginning. The good guys would kind of fall back. Now college basketball is such a mess that if you don't get the top two picks, you're going to get some dude that's going straight to the G League or overseas. And I think there's no game-changing talent in the NBA draft, unfortunately, that you can bank on. I can get a guy at 15, 17. It's just really, really hard to find now because the college level is done. Think about it. Everybody now, it's Cooper Flag. And then you got the two kids from Rutgers. After that, no one knows who's 5 and 6. Look at last year's draft. We sat here 1 through 5 like
they all need development. They all
they're all one and done, or they're international guys who played when they were 15 or something like that, or some 7-footer that thinks he's Steph Curry. And that's what you're dealing with. And that type of style of play doesn't help NBA teams. Now, that being said, if you look at international basketball, Olympic basketball, these Euro leagues, there's veteran guys over there. That's where the 7-footers are. These are guys 28, 29 years old that come in, they're going to bang, they're going to rebound, they're going to pass the ball, and they're going to be good players, like the kid in Houston, the center that they got.
Yep.
Yeah, they got guys like that.
Yabusele came back this year, and he
found a spot.
Yep.
Yabusele got a spot in the league. But, I mean, there's this real big men over there, veteran guys that play fundamental ball. These are the kind of players the Celtics team needs. But as far as the future of this team, the hard part is trying to get Tatum and Brown to sit out because they're in a league full of guys that have no problem sitting out. If this is Paul George and Ben Simmons, you wouldn't have to ask them to sit. They're going to sit out.
You're right. Yep,
Kawhi, Kyrie Irving, What's his name? Zion.
Yep.
Is you can name Luka sits out a ton of games. If he wouldn't have to ask them to sit out and rest. They're going to do that. But these are two guys that like to play. And, I know people are looking at them like this is the 08, 2010 Celtics coming apart. Jason Tatum is 27. Jaylen Brown's 28. Derek White, I think, just turned 30. Peyton Pritchard is 27. Their core is young. They weren't supposed to win it when they were 26. No one wins it when you're 26. They were ahead. Now they're getting at that point where it's like, okay, now they're becoming veterans, but they're not old. These guys aren't old. This KD got hurt when he was 32, 33 years old. Jason Tatum was 27. It's different for them. I know Tatum might still miss the whole season, but these guys are still in their prime. They're still at their peak. And I think they're kind of being treated like they're in their mid-30s, and we kind of don't know, is this the end of the road? And it's like, no, not the teams. The other teams that they're competing against in the East, they're all still older than them and more injury prone. I mean, so it's going to be a funny thing. I know with the money, with the new ownership, that's more of a problem. But I think your core is still intact. And like any good team, you're going to have to change pieces. You keep your 4 or 5, but your bench players will change, or your role players will change. And that's pretty common. But I think Tatum and Brown, Derek White are there for the long haul. Probably Peyton Pritchard just signed as well. Yep. But the Porzingis, the Al Horfords, the Drew Holidays, Cornette, they're probably gone. Hauser. Yeah, you're going to see a whole new bench of supporting cast, and maybe a change in philosophy and style is, I think, one thing you're going to see more than player movement.
Yep. All right, we got 90 seconds to go. End of an era, and what grade would you give the title run?
Oh, this whole thing, man, I got to give them a high grade. Again, you're not supposed to win it at the age they won it. They're not supposed to make the finals at 24, 25. They're not supposed to be in the conference finals that much when they were second, third-year guys in the league. They peaked ahead of schedule. They've had 3 different head coaches and still managed to get success with these 3 guys. And in a weird twist of fate, you could end up with a 4th, but that's a discussion for another time. But I got to give them a real high grade. You got to give them an A for winning the championship and bringing one back home and being a dominant team for a while.
All right, I need you to look up